Hello and welcome to the first episode of SC3MO baking class. Today we're making slice, which I will explain in a minute for the Americans out there. Because apparently they don't have slice in America, which is just devastating to me. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you have to live under these conditions. Damn. But I'm thinking of making this a series because I used to make slice a lot and I haven't been doing lately. I need an excuse to do it more, and also I think America needs to know more about slice. I think it's good to have easy recipes, and sometimes I like to experiment and just make new ones up, which is what's happening today. I was originally going to make a choc-mint slice today because it's the easiest one to make, and I already had all the ingredients. And then yesterday afternoon, my brain was like, but what if you did this instead? So that's what we're doing today. I had to go to the supermarket this morning just to get ingredients to make slice. Though to justify it, I am going to be making a second slice either today or tomorrow because someone I know is injured and I'm making them a little care package and they need dairy-free slice. So the normal slice isn't going to work for them. So I needed to get other ingredients anyway, right? Also, my knee-high Converse finally came and I'm so excited. I won't take them off. I mean, I will. I'm balancing on a stool, and it's very wobbly. I don't know why I'm sitting like this, I just wanted to show you my shoes. First of all, things that we're gonna need. We'll start with ingredients. So today I'm making a chocolate and raspberry slice, and I'm going to be hopefully doing a little white chocolate thing on the top, but I don't know how that's gonna turn out. So, things we need. A packet of plain biscuits. This is 250 grams of some kind of plain biscuits. Any plain biscuits is fine. A can of condensed milk. This is... how much is this? I don't know. It's a can worth. 397 grams. That's a fucking random ass number. A block of baking chocolate. This is 200 grams. 200 grams of baking chocolate. And the last thing we need for the main part is raspberries. You can use frozen raspberries or fresh raspberries. Obviously, we're not using this entire packet. You do need to chop them up, but it's one of those things where you can't really gauge how much you're going to need prior to making it. I haven't made this particular slice before, but I have made a white chocolate and raspberry slice before. That used roughly 2 teaspoons of chopped up raspberries, but it depends on, how runny it is. You really have to gauge it by how runny it is when you're mixing it in. You start with, an amount, and if you need a bit more, add a bit more, but you don't want it to be too runny, so you don't want to add too much to begin with. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. In this instance, I am also adding a topping thing with white chocolate. I'm not going to be using this whole block, just a little bit of it. And again, I'll explain that when we get to it. So aside from ingredients, there are a few other things we're going to need. First of all, we're going to need some kind of tray. This tray is actually too big for this slice. The slice will come to about here in this one, but that's okay. It doesn't actually matter because it's not a runny slice. It will go where I tell it to go. So this is fine. The other trays I have are too small, so this is fine. And also baking paper, which I just spent like 10 minutes trying to find this because I couldn't find it. It wasn't where it lives, and I had this thing where I was like, wait, hang on, I'm sure I moved this because it was in the way here. But it wasn't with my baking stuff, and it wasn't with my other baking stuff, and I thought maybe it's with my craft stuff. It wasn't with my craft stuff, it was on top of the fridge. Why would I look on top of the fridge for baking paper? Anyway, you want to line the tray with baking paper. Depending on the baking paper you have, you might want to tape it down. Not inside, you do not want the tape to be in contact with the food. Just tape it to the outside so that it stays in place when you get to that point. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to put the slice in there and it's just going to be in the way and it's going to be annoying. A measuring teaspoon, or you can use a normal teaspoon, I don't care, but they are slightly different. And normal teaspoons come in different sizes. This one's straightforward. So I have a measuring teaspoon. In theory, we'll also have a mixer. If you don't have a mixer, that's okay. You can hand mix it. It's just gonna be a lot harder. If you don't have a lot of arm strength, wouldn't recommend it. I am a puny little bitch, so the mixer is quite good for me. Don't rely entirely on the mixer though. You will still need to like turn it over. Well, it depends on how good your mixer is. This one's not great, so I still have to turn it over and, you know, push bits back into the middle, give it another whir, and, you know, a few things. But for the most part, the mixer is great. A spoon, you will need a spoon. I didn't bring a spoon into the corner. I'm not getting up just to get a spoon. A spatula is also good. This one's a bit fucked, don't look at that. And a saucepan, which I also forgot to bring with me. Well, yeah. There are two different ways you can melt the chocolate. I melt, you have to, I mean, you can either use a saucepan or you can use a bowl and put it in the microwave. We'll get to that. And finally, kitchen hammer. Unless you have a food processor, I think that's what they're called. Those, I don't know. You need to crush the biscuits. I think there's a thing, I think it's called a food processor that will crush them if you need to do that. I don't have one of those. So my method for crushing biscuits is put biscuits in freezer bag and beat the shit out of them. Also, ear protection, if you're using a mixer, ear protection is a good idea. I mean, not necessary, I guess. I just find it a bit loud, and I find that using ear protection helps. So I will be chucking my loops in when I get there. And finally, possibly most importantly, is a banger playlist. Oops.
She doesn't deserve to be in a place like this, all alone. She's underage and so very, very brave. A fake ID and her credibility. She sits at the bar, The gents are gonna try so hard. He said it was a one-night stand, but the alcohol didn't let her understand. Yeah, he said it was a one-night stand, a one-night stand.
Tell us to stop standing on the goddamn couches. Now, fucker, you can get hurt. Yo, check this out. Turn down for what? Drunk in the club, liquor in my cup. You can see I don't give a fuck. Turn down for what? Get out my face, motherfucker. Let's wanna see what's up. Turn down for what? This is my shit, motherfucker. Tonight, we just don't give a fuck. Swear to God, the security guard looks at me one more time. I'm punching him in the face. Bitch, you trying to get cooked?
So what made you think that he couldn't find a door in the morning when he found that bed so easily in the dark?
So it is important to crush the biscuits first, because once the wet stuff is liquefied, you need to work somewhat quickly, because you don't want it to, get too hard again before you finish mixing it all together. So I've crushed the biscuits, and now I'm just gonna give the bowl a shake. It's fine if you have a few, pieces that aren't, tiny, but if you've got, really big chunks, you might want to chuck them back in the bag and give them an extra crush. So if you give the bowl a bit of a shake, the big pieces will come to the top. So if there are any really big ones, just pick them out, put them back in the bag, smash them a little bit more, and good to go. Alrighty, so there we are, our biscuits are all crushed, and now I'm going to go and have a break before we come back into the rest. Hello, while we were gone, I put the paper in the tray. This baking paper is really weird. I don't know what's wrong with it, it's weird, it's not very flexible. I don't like it. I miss my old baking paper, I wish I never ran out of it. I got some raspberries out of the freezer for some stupid reason. I put the whole bag back in the freezer. I knew I didn't need the whole bag, but I could have at least tipped a few out so they weren't frozen. But no, here we are and they're frozen. So where we left off, I mean, I don't know why I need to say where we left off, because I'm the one that took a break. This is a video, it's all going to be cropped together. You guys aren't getting the break. But our biscuits are all crushed up. Okay, so the next step is to melt the condensed milk and the chocolate. I always break my chocolate up into the individual segments, because I just find it melts a lot quicker and easier, and you don't want to burn either of them. So you don't want them to be on for too long. So obviously you don't have to break the chocolate up into segments, but it's better if you do.
Now I'm
Up to something age, forgetting you in a cabaret somewhere. So the condensed milk, yes, it is already a liquid, but it's a very thick liquid. It's not easy to mix when it's like this, so melting it just makes it a lot more usable. And the chocolate, obviously, you can't you need to melt that. Some people melt it in the microwave, but it's very easy to burn in the microwave. If you put it on for too long, you've fucked it. So I melt mine on the stove in a saucepan very carefully. That way I can do both at once and I can keep an eye on it. But I'm afraid that I'm affected, I wouldn't be content in this way. While you're melting it, you want to really keep an eye on it. Just keep stirring it, because if you leave it too long, the chocolate starts to stick to the bottom, especially when it's still in big chunks. You don't want, and you want to make sure that as soon as it's all melted, once it is all melted, that's it. Take it off, because you don't want to overdo it. Basically, you just want to make sure there's no more lumps in there. So when you take it off the heat, it should be nice and runny. But also, when you take it off the heat, you need to mix that shit immediately, because it starts to thicken up very quickly. Don't forget that ear protection if you've got it. just mixing the biscuits and the stuff that we have in the pan, just the chocolate and condensed milk. We don't have the raspberries just yet. So you just make sure you get any bits that have gone right up into the side, and make sure you stir right into the bottom edges, because that's where all the stuff gets pushed to, and that stuff gets mixed. It gets missed. It's supposed to get mixed, but it gets missed by the mixer, so you need to push all that back into the middle so that it actually gets it all. This is mostly it's mostly mixed. Sometimes I just give up and do a bit of it with the spoon directly because it just isn't cooperating. So it's mostly mixed, and we're just going to add some of the raspberries. We don't add too much all at once. My previous recipe said that I added roughly 2 teaspoons, so that's what I'm going to do, and we're going to go from there. You've got to be careful when working with like fresh fruit and stuff, because it's wet and it changes the wetness. It's like you wouldn't just add an extra liquid. You know, if you're making something that has liquid amounts, you have to add the amounts there. You can't just go and add random extra liquid. Fruit isn't that much different. It basically turns into slush. It makes it, it adds extra wetness, and you don't want to overdo that because then it won't set properly. I'd say start with 2 teaspoons, and if it's still dry, if you still think it needs a bit more, add a little bit more, but just a little bit at a time. Okay, so once it's all mixed, it kind of looks like this. Still a bit spongy kind of feeling, and that's when you want to put it into the pan that you should have prepared earlier, I hope. And basically once it's in there, just make sure it's flattish, and if that's where you're leaving it, chuck it in the fridge and wait a few hours. But we're gonna add an extra step today. It looks like this now, and I'm gonna put it in the fridge for a bit and fix my iPod issues, but then we'll do the rest. Okay, we're back. We're gonna do the end stages, and this is a part that I have never done before in any kind of context. I have not done this before. We've got our slice, and it's a big solid lump. And we're gonna get our white chocolate and a microwave safe bowl. And I'm gonna just melt a little bit of it. I don't know how much. I'm gonna go with 2 rows and see what happens. But yes, it is safer and easier to melt stuff on the stove, but with such a small amount, I'm not turning the stove on for something so little. Alright, so now that is definitely melted. Basically, I'm so scared this isn't gonna work out, because I've built it up so much, and they're watching me. I'm gonna try and draw.
You've got it all wrong.
You could just drizzle it over, but I'm doing something special because it's spooky season, and I'm excited to see how this turns out, especially considering, as I said, I've never done any kind of like drizzling before. Nothing like that, and this time I'm not just doing drizzling, I'm doing, you know, a kind of design. Alright, so this is the design I wanted to draw, and it's spiderwebs, and they turned out so cute! I did way too much white chocolate. 2 rows was way too much. Most of it's left, and there are some gaps here, and I could draw more spiderwebs, but I'm actually just going to do some little drizzles in the spots that I've got left. When you're doing the drizzling, you don't actually have to scoop it up, you just have to sort of dip the spoon in, and it collects enough to do it. Just, you know, and then I go and do exactly the opposite. That's what I just said. That's fine. You can do anything you want with the drizzling. You can draw things, or you can just let it drip anywhere. Okay, and that's how it turned out in the end. I'm so excited! The webs turned out so much better than I was expecting, because I was really worried. I haven't done that before, and I was hoping that they turned out okay, and they turned out so good. I'm so excited to see how this actually tastes in the end, because it's chocolate and raspberry with white chocolate drizzling. So I'm going to chuck that in the fridge and let it set, and then later I'll chop it up into whatever sizes I decide I want to do, and yeah. I hope you had fun here. I hope you enjoy your baking. I'm thinking I might make this a series, and I'll just do some more slices. And yeah, but thanks for watching, and let me know if you end up making this one. Enjoy.